Okay, we're joined by JJ van Dongen, the Vice President of Philips Africa. Thanks for joining us, JJ. Philips, one of the biggest companies in the world, a true multinational, but there's a lot said about sustainability amongst multinationals. They all have their corporate social responsibility units. Do you feel multinationals, and does Philips really get sustainability?
I think we do. In terms of of sustainability, in terms of Philips, we focus on what we call resource efficiency. That's in the area of energy, which is really related to lighting, and our position as a leader in terms of lighting on a global basis. We see it in terms of relamping, in terms of solar, and we've moved very strongly into those areas. We also see it in the area of material efficiency. In other words, how do we actually manage our healthcare business? So we're not just looking at front-end sale of equipment, but also the life expectancy of the equipment and the eventually disposal of that equipment. And we see it in the area of food processing, food management of efficiencies of food processing, cleansing, etc. And finally, in the area of water, where we actually have products related to water purification through ultraviolet and areas like that. So we see all those areas touching very closely on sustainability. And in terms of our business models, being able to focus on not only the traditional, more high-end quartiles of the population group, but also starting to move towards looking at the bottom of the pyramid type solutions and how we can develop good business models in terms of working with people who are earning $1 a day or $2 a day in terms of those type of solutions.
Now, you're Vice President of Philips Africa. Does it follow then that Philips Africa have lower regulations? Do you have lower standards than Philips Europe and other Philips parts of the Philips company around the world?
Certainly not. I give an example in terms of South Africa. With the big relamping projects and CFLI projects, compact fluorescent projects of Eskom. We are the major supplier that's occurred in terms of that, and that's using the highest quality of product that we can, because really what an organisation like Eskom wants to focus on is how it can sustain the energy efficiency that's occurring from these relamping projects, and therefore they use the highest level of technology. Really what we see as a company is that it's using high technology to actually address a need at the bottom of the pyramid. And our products do not vary according to the market in terms of the quality of the products that we actually have. So we do have things like wood stoves, which we're working on, and ultraviolet water purification systems, but they all come out of the similar type of factories and the similar quality levels in terms of our expectation.
Now, you mentioned Eskom, and obviously South Africa relies heavily on coal. I think it's about 90% for electricity. Philips are doing their bit in terms of LED lighting. We know you're doing it in South Africa and around the world. I think there's a demonstration in demonstration towns in China and South Korea. But how difficult is it in South Africa for companies to really make a difference? You know, this heavy reliance on coal, developing population, a poor population that needs electricity. How does that sort of marry in South Africa?
I think as a country, we often, and I'm a South African, we often hide some of the successes we actually have had. Example is Eskom. I think it's more than 45 million compact fluorescents. That's equivalent of 2,000 megawatts that they have saved through their own plans in terms of converting from typical lamps to the new generation of energy efficient lamps. As a company, we are a major supplier in terms of that, but also as a result of that, we could actually establish a lighting factory, for example, in Lesotho, employing 500 people. So you see quite a virtuous circle starting to develop, where yes, the focus on energy efficiency has led to creation of jobs. During the relamping programs that occur in the residential, and that also is more economic housing as well, what we do see is that I think our partners used up to 15 to 20,000 people in terms of that program alone. So we do see, as I said, a virtuous circle developing not only in terms of energy efficiency, but also in terms of the employment of people and the subsequent opportunities that exist thereafter.
And in terms of this conference, it's clearly been a success for South Africa on one level because it's been well organised and it's shown South Africa in a good light. What are Philips, what are multinational companies looking for from these conferences?
From our perspective, it's really developing of more contacts, developing of closer relationships with organizations like the UN, as well as companies that are exploring in the new areas of new products that can actually meet this particular sustainability. So that's what we see as an exciting opportunity. Also to showcase what has actually been achieved, because I believe through showcasing and proof points that we actually can encourage others to follow a similar type of approach that we're taking as a company.
Showcasing, though, only takes you so far. What sort of regulations do we need to force companies, perhaps not force multinationals, because maybe multinationals can't be forced anymore by regulations, but to force companies around the world, to force companies like Eskom to cut their use of coal and to move to a more sustainable, low-carbon future?
I think an organisation like Eskom already realises the opportunities that exist. Otherwise, they would not have done so much that they've been doing recently. We do see countries like Malawi, we see countries like Zimbabwe, Zambia, all following a similar pattern to what Eskom's had. So the proof points we've seen in South Africa are being now carried out in other countries in the SADC region, and that's what I mean in terms of the proof points actually adding benefit.
Okay, and a final one on South Africa. There's obviously been a lot of talk this week. They've been showing a lot of examples of the new wind farms, solar farms. Is this an opportunity of South Africa? There is chronic unemployment. It's a huge economy, but one that needs to be kick-started, I imagine, in a number of sectors. Do you really think that the renewable energy economy, the Philips economy in terms of your LED lighting, is this a potential for South Africa to really step up to the next level?
I think it is. In terms of renewable energy, definitely. In terms of energy efficiency, definitely. Because example is the rollout we talked about, there was 20,000 people involved in terms of it. So it added a dimension in terms of employment, in terms of the approach. What we do see is also that the factory, in terms of supplying on a continuous basis for the compact fluorescents, adds sustainable workforce development in the market here locally.